All right, welcome. This is Dawn Schuler with the Schuler Group, and I'm so excited that you are joining us. And I'm going to give a couple of minutes for people to join. I know that I'm trying to start right on time, and who knows what everybody's clocks are. There also can be somewhat of a delay with the webinar jam system. So I've started, but you may not be here yet. So I'm just going to give everybody a chance to come on out and come on into the webinar jam room. So while this is an actual webinar, one of the things that I want to mention to you is that you have the opportunity to speak. But what you have to do is you have to go over to the control panel that should be on the right side of your screen, and there's a little raised hand, or there's a little hand there. And if you click it, it will let you request to speak. So why don't you go ahead and do that now? Because that's what this whole idea was, that we were actually going to have a discussion, an open conversation, and yes, there will be things that I will share with you and my own content, but it's really more about let's have a discussion. So I can see we've got Tony Joe here. So Tony Joe, hello to you. Got all my screens and all my little things going on here, and so let me see what I can do to manage all of it. So because I've got my screen, I got my control panel. It's really a cool system. So let me see who else we might have here as well. Got 4 of you here. So again, go ahead and click on that little hand if you can see it. It's over on your right. And that way you can get your microphone and your webcam, because it's not going to be much of an open discussion if we can't hear you or see you. So now I've got my chat up. And now let's see if we can get some of those speaking requests going on. So remember, click that little hand. My screen is flipped, so I go to raise my right hand. It looks like my left. So let's go ahead and get you guys. Okay, I've got someone raising their hand. Let's see. All right. So I got Tony Joan. I got Leanne. Let's get you in here. Let's see what you got to say. Again, I'm really excited that you all are joining me, especially live, since that's the whole purpose, is to actually have this conversation about objections, how they come up in the sales process, why they come up in the sales process, and what we have to do about it. All right. So trying to manage all of these things. So I see Leanne saying hello. I see Tony Joe saying hello. All right. So you may need to make sure you've got a webcam and a microphone enabled. That's going to be key. But if we have to do it the old-fashioned way, then go ahead and type what you have to say about objections. All right, we got Dawn Moore here. Hello, Dawn. Dawn is a great name. Okay, so I see it says Tony Joe's joined the room. There we go. All right. Hello, Tony Joe. How are you? I'm sure she's working on her video and audio. At least definitely the audio. All right, so as we're trying to figure out our little guests and there we've got her. Looky there. Hello, Tony Joe.
Oh my gosh, that was weird. Okay, let me see if I can get my screen to go.
Okay, and I'm going to do some technical support over here on the side. So I'm going to write this to Leanne, but then it's also for those of you listening. Webinar Jam will, whatever browser you're using, if you're using Internet Explorer or Edge, it doesn't like it. So you want to be using Safari or Chrome or Mozilla Firefox. But as soon as you go on, it should be asking you to allow your microphone.
I had to download or accept some other stuff in my program. And then I had to physically turn on my microphone. It's in my little picture, like right there.
Yes, you might need to make sure everything's running. See, mine are up at the top, but that's probably because
I got a star up top.
That's right. And Dawn, I know you said you're on, or no, Leanne said you're on Chrome. Never mind. No, a microphone and what is that other thing? A webcam. All right. So there may be something you need to turn on at the bottom, according to what Tony Joe says. So if I mouse over, then as soon as you hit that, then there may be some little icons that show up. You may have to actually mouse over that.
Yeah, actually my icons are at the top.
Okay.
But when you mouse over your picture, they're at the bottom.
Okay.
And there's a lag time. It's really weird. Don't look at yourself when you talk.
I know. See, I'm all live, so it works for me. But there's that other. Oh, look, I got another request. All right, so let's see if we can get Leanne on here. But while we've got Tony Joe here, Tony Joe, thanks for being brave and stepping up and being part of this. And I want the rest of you to be thinking about this and using the chat if you have to. But so let's just start. So Tony Joe, do you know what objections are? Because I don't want to assume that everybody knows what I'm talking about when I talk about objections in the sales process. So let's at least start there to make sure that we're all on the same page. So you get to be my guinea pig, Tony Joe, and answer the questions since you're here.
Now, and first I have to apologize. I have some cat issues. I don't know if you just heard that, but we have a big fight going on.
I did hear that. It looks like we got Leanne coming on, so great. Okay.
So objections it's really, I mean, they can object to, I mean, it's really saying no because of money, time, well, I guess that's a time commitment. But so I guess basically it boils down to, hi.
Hi there, Leanne.
Down to time and money. I mean, what else is there?
Well, there are several variations. So Leanne, let's make sure we get your microphone. So I can see you, but you need to put your little microphone on.
Oh, there. Now can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. So yeah, I think this is a great place to start. So let's start with that idea of what are those objections we hear. So Tony Joe, you talked about time and money. So Leanne, do you have anything to add to that? Because I got plenty, but this is supposed to be an open discussion, and I want to make sure we get to hear from all of you.
Yeah, time and money. It's not the right time. I can't afford that. I'm trying to think of some. Some will come to me as we go, and.
Well, okay. So how about that won't work for me?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So Lillian's doing in the chat, and she just wrote objections for not having enough information, or I don't really see how this will benefit me. Or another one is this isn't for this won't work for me, or I've tried that before. We did something like that before and it never worked. We tried that, it didn't work. So those are some good ones. And then when you start talking about like the time, sometimes it could be things like my family, I'm busy with my family, my kids have soccer, my husband won't approve, my wife won't approve, so you can really start detailing down into the really nitty gritty. Dawn Moore just added, I have to talk to my spouse. It's like, I can't make a decision right now because I have to do these other things. So what else have we?
Well, then I've gotten, the next month is really busy for me. So follow up with me in a couple months.
Exactly. So what's happening when we hear that?
Probably trying to blow us off. You don't have enough info is usually what it, I mean, every once in a while you run into something where it's legit, but I think it's they don't have enough information.
Well, and I really like that, yeah, not this month because it's a really busy month for me, or you will be ready, third quarter or the summer. The summer will be better. Don Moore says it's because people really want more information. And I'd say that's really important. It's like, yes, they want more information, but that information needs to be targeted, right? So where I always like to start is really believing that the reason we're even in that sales conversation, isn't it because they think that there might be something that you can do to help them or solve a problem they have? I mean, if we're actually in a real sales conversation and it's not you just picked somebody off the street and said, so by the way, this is what I sell, want it? We're talking about, somebody was amenable to getting on the phone or having a meeting with you or getting on Zoom about this, and it's because they have a problem. So why, if they have this problem, why do they object to the solution?
Well, they wouldn't want to necessarily always face the problem. I mean, I would say it's easier to face it, but that first step of taking and making that decision of just handling it, it's what's worse, the pain of the problem or the pain of just taking care of it.
Right. Fear of change. I mean, this is
right back.
Go ahead. Oh, she has to boot right back. It really is. It's that whole, yes, they have this problem, but then the solution requires a change in what they've been doing. And that change is scarier than the real problem or than the actual problem. Leanne, would you agree with that?
I would. I was just say, I see Dawn Moore. She doesn't have any camera or microphones. I didn't either. And then what I did, Dawn, is to ask a question on the top. When I did that, then it brought me to another screen and I had to download something because this is the first time on Webinar Jam. So Dawn, I was just going to tell you, maybe try that. What was it, a little hand to chat?
Yeah, there's a little hand that
yeah.
So when I was testing it as a participant, it was like kind of at the top of the right one.
Yeah, and that's what helped for me. So Dawn Moore, try that and see if that helps you.
Here we go. Okay, we've got the first step, which is she raised her little hand, and so she's going to be coming on soon.
Okay.
I think it's that oh, I'd have to do something. And I remember one of the very first business coaches I worked with, probably 15, 16 years ago. She was brilliant, and one of the things she said was the main objection you'll hear is money, of course, and it's rarely the actual real reason. And because we all know, because we've all been there, that if we really want change badly, we'll find the money. So it's not so she was absolutely right. It's actually not about the money. There's a deeper issue. The money is just an easy one to say, right? I remember I had this program. It was a 3-week program. And this one woman said, I really want to take that program. And it wasn't, in my mind, it wasn't that expensive. It was maybe $300 or $400 for this 3-week program. And she's like, yeah, I don't have the money. And then on Facebook a week later, I see she bought a new truck. It's kind of like, all right. I mean, and not a judgment thing, because really she can choose to use her money where she wants. But it's like, let's be truthful and honest. It's more important to me that I buy a new truck than it is to solve this problem I thought I had.
Well, you're right, because when I've had a good coach, is that the big thing is once we identify their pain point, or whatever the pain is that they need to overcome, and the more we can say, well, I don't have the time, and it's bringing them back to, well, you said, Dawn, that you really want to overcome this. you know, it's kind of like, do you or don't you? I mean, there's better ways of saying it, but you know, if you really want to overcome it, you know, in 2 months from now, it's still going to be an issue. What would your life be like is if in 2 months you overcame this issue? What would your life be like?
Exactly. And I think that most people are too afraid to be that direct, or to be that, I guess it could sound direct, that, well, you say you want this, do you or don't you? But it's bringing them back to, why are we having this conversation? What's the problem? And people do it different ways. You know, can you put a number? Can you, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much of a problem is this? And if they say it's an 8, it's like, yeah, it's a big problem. Or if they say it's a 2, they're really not going to be interested in solving it. And then saying, so what if a year from now, things are still exactly the same? And is that okay with you? And if their answer is, and they think about it and they say, oh, yeah, well, then they're not really a strong prospect. But if you just, kind of go, oh, you don't have enough money, okay. You don't have a chance to actually help them get farther along. Looks like we've almost got Don Moore.
Yeah, Don Moore, you have to then on your picture, there's a way you turn on your video and then you turn on your microphone. Well, Dawn, there she is.
Yay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Wow, thank you, Leanne. That was quite the production to get on.
I know, but I think since we've done this, now it'll be easy the next time.
Yeah.
So, Dawn, I was going to ask you, because when we're talking individual and someone's like, yeah, well, I need to look at it in 2 months. So when you deal with a corporate client and they tell you that, so individually, I always think it's a different approach than if you're in front of a corporate client and they say, well, Dawn, we're looking at that at second quarter is when we're going to budget it. I'm really looking at a proposal right now so I can budget for it. Do you like to then push for getting an answer? Well, if all this fits, can we settle on doing it at second quarter? Or how do you pursue that objection with a corporate versus an individual? Do you see a difference?
So that's a really good question. And I'd say one of the things with the corporate, I mean, if they were to say, we've budgeted for that for second quarter, so that's when we would like to get started, or let's then I would actually say, great, let's get something on the calendar. Let's schedule that date where you're going to pay your deposit or whatever, because them saying they've budgeted for it in the second quarter or whatever it might be is closer to a yes. The challenge or the objection that we run into a lot is, we're really busy and we just don't have time for that. And we've got a lot of other things going on. We've got a lot of other fires. And so my response to that is, as Don Moore said, I understand. And there's never an ideal time, or what would that ideal time look like? And trying to get them to envision so they can have a tangible, oh, okay, this is when we're ready. And if they say, well, it's when we don't have, 4 projects going on, and it's like, is that reality? Because I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. So that would be one way I'd handle that. Or it's, to improve my own sales skills. And then the other one is, what are you losing by not doing this now? If this is sales training and your sales team doesn't have it, aren't you losing out on revenue? Or if your employees and your teams aren't communicating well effectively, aren't you losing money in loss of efficiency in production? And what's that costing you? And so really standing in your power and having that conversation.
Oh, I think you bring up a good point, because I think sometimes corporately we think it has to be different, and the sales process, especially, coaching, how they're always bringing back the pain. We can do the same thing if the language is just a little different.
Right. Because
is that true?
Yeah. it's all about, aren't we solving a problem? Whatever it is, and whatever the service or the product is, whatever the industry is, whatever the service, the product, the industry, whatever, whether they're corporate, whether they're individual, it's about, they have a problem, we're there to solve it. Do we believe we can solve it? If we don't, then that's a different problem that I can't really cover in this webinar. If we don't really have a confidence in our services or in our products, then there's the issue there, that's a big issue right there.
Can I share a document with you guys real quick?
Sure.
I just want to. Have you guys ever heard of Ari Galper?
No.
No?
I think I have.
A friend sent me a document. Oh, what do you guys see, like this triage of?
Yeah, the infinity screen.
Yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm like,
really cool.
Yeah, so you don't share the desktop. You find, if it's like a tab on your browser, an actual document, the desktop gives you that infinity screen thing.
Yeah, that's not what I was looking for. So, all right.
You have to do the pencil?
This.
Yeah, you do that, but then you have to select the first one is almost always the desktop, but then you've actually got to like select the specific tab. There we go.
Okay, so these are Objections Changing Manual by Ari Galper. And just some of the very first questions that you guys were talking about brought this up. I'll keep scrolling, don't get seasick. We have a vendor with our current vendor. You say in a calm voice. We don't have the budget. You say in a calm voice. That's not a problem. A lot of our clients didn't have a budget set aside for this in the beginning, which is perfectly okay. Would you be open to some different ideas on how they were able to overcome that? Send me some information and I'll look it over. So these are all common objections that we all get. He goes through this very short, it's only 32 pages, of how to actually develop answers and the posture for the psychology behind the objections. So I'm going to stop sharing, but if you guys on the call want, I can send it to you if you're interested.
Yeah, that looks great. If you could send it.
Yeah, that would be fabulous. Is that like an opt-in or something? Like, is that something if you go to unlock the game?
It was a conversation I had with someone who said, oh, I have that because I talk about like what you're doing right now on this call. How do you handle objections? And then someone said to me what I just said to you. Oh, I have this really cool document. Would you like me to send it to you? And I said, yes, I would. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And there may be people who watch the replay may be like, yeah, can I get that? So if you're watching the replay and you say Dawn Moore, I want that. So yeah, contact Dawn, this Dawn Schuler, and because I'll get a copy of it from the other Dawn. What I noticed, and especially in the work that I've been doing with my private coaching clients over the years, and then of course now that I brought the bank sales training into the business so much, is that something happens with a lot of people in the sales process and they end up losing their power, and they forget that whole, I have a service or a product that can help this person. And the minute it comes to either asking for the sale or those objections are raised, it's like they clam up and they go, oh, okay. But no, not really a response. And that's the piece that I really want to help. I want to help people with is that internal piece of really believing in what you have to offer, because then that's going to give you that confidence and help you stay in your power when then you ask for the sale and somebody objects. And when I was, I had a poll or a little survey for this webinar, and you could say what industry you're in and then how often objections come up. And the answer I got almost unanimously was frequently. It was like always, frequently, sometimes never. And frequently was 100% of the answers for the people who took that survey. And so it comes up. So let me ask each of you, like, how do you feel you are in that part of the sales process? Like, do you feel when there's the objection and it's your turn to respond, it's like the ball was bounced over the net at, in the tennis match, how do you feel you do with that?
Well, I can't.
Go ahead, Leanne.
I was going to say, in my corporate sales, when I'm selling furniture to businesses, it's a different, I know how to keep moving that forward. And then when I finally get, well, if it's a budget or they have to have their team do it, that's one thing. But I'll keep moving it forward. Where I get more stuck is then going with individual, because sometimes they give you one and it gets part of that you can't believe in. Like they say, they give you an objection and you can't believe that the first objection. You have to keep moving forward. And sometimes I don't always move forward individually for some reason. So it's just something that I'll keep working on. But when I think of it, it's just pausing and throwing back the question for them. And then it's what question. It depends on what objection they give.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Right. What is that objection and how do you respond based on that? And then Dawn Moore, what were you going to say?
I think it depends on the situation and how much urgency I create for them to take action. I'm more of a long tail sale person because I enjoy the relationship building component of it. I know the longer someone stays in conversation with me, the more they realize I'm trustworthy and knowledgeable in the area, and I like to believe they will eventually do business with me. So I've learned over the last 7 months, and I'm getting better, to ask for the credit card information to save the deal. Mm-hmm. And now my next step from my business coach has been to create a sense of urgency now, today. And I think that's a posturing process, because what I do isn't going to go away. The only urgency is I have a credit card bill due. So yes, I can help you. I know that. And yes, you need to pay me in order for me to help you, because I'm not giving it away for free anymore. So that sense of urgency, do the bonuses really go away? Or so that would be something I'd be open to discussion, is how do you guys create that sense of urgency where it's closing the sale now instead of next week's, which would be fine with me.
Well, and I think that you bring up a good point. So it's what I call the authentic urgency. And the authentic piece is if you say, well, you only get this bonus if you sign up now, but then you don't.
It's the same bonus.
And the same inauthentic. So it's what's creating that authentic urgency. And so the standard ways are price. You save this much money if you sign up, at this time or by this date. You get this, you get extra product, service, training, whatever. You get maybe extra VIP treatment. So you get a little something special. You get a free gift. Those kinds of things. Or there's the number of seats. So I only have X number of seats in this training, or I only have X number of private clients that I can take on at this time. We're going to, be offering something this evening that is, we have another training on Tuesday, but the only way you can get that is if you sign up for what I'll be offering, as opposed to, well, you can sign up for it at any time. So what makes now different? And I think that we, in whatever we offer, whatever our industry, we have to figure out what does make that different. There was something else that I wanted to say too. One of the things I found has been helpful is, and Zoom has made it so nice, even though you can do it over the phone, over old fashioned, is with my private coaching clients, or my prospects, I have a coaching package. And what I used to do is, we'd have a discovery call. I'd talk about my coaching packages. I'd send them the package and then I'll follow up to review with you. Now what I do is I send it to them while we're on the call, or I share my screen and we just go over it right there, because I'm not afraid anymore to say, these are my coaching packages and these are the prices. So it's more confident in my ability, but that has helped too, is just using the screen share feature or just sending them the link while we're on the phone and saying, here, let's go through it together. And that has helped a lot.
Well, and you bring up a good point on the urgency, because Dawn Moore, I agree with you that the process is good because I like building that relationship. But what I found over the years of sales is that, especially now in the last couple of years, when you get someone on the phone and then you just say, I'll follow up with you next week, it seems like it's 2 or 3 weeks of phone tag. And saying the urgency and getting it done now might, even to talk about that. Well, look, I know we're busy and it took us, a week to get on the phone today. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, it'll probably do the same. So let's get down to a decision or something to put the urgency in that way. Or my schedule the next 2 weeks are really busy and I'll have a hard time following back up with you.
And we already know that as soon as they reschedule, the cancellation probability exists.
Yeah. So I like, is when you said, if, I brought up the example of, well, next quarter it's in the budget for the training. I really like how you said, well, why don't we just go ahead and schedule, this date for the down payment, and I'll follow up with you that way. And then getting the right people to follow up. Because I don't know if you guys have run into it, but in corporate, sometimes the final decision maker, they just won't meet with me. They always put it with their assistant. And so you carry along everything and then they have to get the final approval. And I know you always want to be in front of the right decision maker, but I find a lot of times the clients I deal with, it just doesn't happen. So then it's playing the card right with the assistant.
One thing that happened this week, so I had a proposal out to an engineering firm, and we'd set a date for me to follow up this week. And so I did, and she said, the CEO and, the vice president, they both have been out. So they've not been here for me to be able to share the proposal with them. And so why don't we, she said, give me a chance to get this in front of them. Old Dawn would have said, oh, okay, I'll follow up next week. New Dawn said, got it, I understand. And have you had a chance to look at the proposal? And if so, what are your thoughts about it? Do you have any questions? And so she actually did have some questions, but if I just said, oh, okay, I'll follow up next week, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to answer her questions or even see where she was leaning. What are your recommendations going to be to the CEO and the vice president? And so she said, here are my recommendations. Great. And then she said, let me follow up with you next Thursday at 10:30. And
that's even better. She's following up with you.
Yes. And so that, I think that just instead of just saying, okay, or I understand, it's that, how can you move things forward? And the question or the objection, I need to talk to my spouse. I understand. And do you need to talk to your spouse because you need his or her help in making a decision? Or have you already made a decision and you just need his or her buy-in? Because then you can see what their thought processes are, right? Like, I really want to do this, but I need to talk to so-and-so. Or, yeah, I'm not really sure because I've got some questions. Oh, really? Are there some questions I can answer for you? So that's
follow
something.
That up with, is your spouse home right now? Can we get him on the Zoom or on the call?
That's a good one.
That's one.
And I don't know what some of the others of you thought, but there's a little bit of me that went, ooh, boy, that's brassy. Like that's
that's Dawn.
Yeah, that's that Dawn, that new Dawn.
Well, sometimes it's a fear that the spouse doesn't want to talk to the spouse because there's a marital history or there's something there that a third person can resolve. Because if your prospective client really wants to do it and the spouse is going to object, then taking the position third party of the interested person, it's much easier to convey using our bank coding system in the language of the spouse if we've coded them.
Right. Yeah. So, but I'm recognizing in me that there's that, ooh, you know, and we all, you know, we all are in a growth period, and you know, being in business, I've always said is like the biggest personal growth development program you'll ever do. And so you really, because you have to step up and you have to step out of your comfort zone. And I recognize that there's still places where I need to step more and more and more out of my comfort zone and into my bigness. And I'm getting there, but that would be a new thing for me to say, oh, you know, is he there right now? Can we get him on the phone, or can we get him on the Zoom?
And also, you know, can we three-way him in? Would he pick up the call from you, and we add him?
Well, and it's because I think, well, I know, Dawn, like you were saying, it's always a growth process. And what I found is on some sales, or when I deal with clients that I know their process, so I really just give it to them and then wait, and then all of a sudden I'll get the order. And what I found is I've gotten complacent on some of that. And so it's stepping back into the power and being confident and moving the sale forward and not being afraid to ask a question. Because when I think of the real confident salespeople, they ask those questions, and it's not like I'm thinking, oh, that's really brassy. I'm thinking, oh, you know, she really knows what she's talking about. I want to work with her. And if we realize it's, you know, when someone's confident and talks to me that way, how I feel, I'm sure they're going to feel the same way about us.
Right. And if our whole, I think that all of us come from that place of wanting to be of service. We believe that what we have to offer will help the other person. And so if we stop the forward motion of that conversation, we're doing them a disservice, because we're not allowing them to move forward to solve whatever the problem or the challenge is that they've said that they've had. So it really does go back to being confident and understanding your role, the salesperson's role, as it's almost like sometimes you have to coach them through that, whether you would consider yourself a coach or not. You almost have to coach them through that, what's really going on, or, you know, is that really the issue? Or, you know, you said you want to make this change, and now you have this opportunity, and I'm wondering why you're, you know, is there a place where you're stuck? And you know, that I actually don't have a problem asking those kinds of questions, but that's also because I'm a coach, and I tend to ask those coaching questions to my clients anyway. And it's
if
just
you
bringing
don't
that.
Make this decision today, where will you be in a week from now?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have a CPA firm who wants us to redo their employee evaluation system, because the partners hate it. The employees hate it. Everybody hates it, but they do it every summer. Like they do it mid-June after tax season ends. And so we've got a proposal in, and the partner who's our contact presented it to his partner, his co-partner. And he says, well, Bob's interested, but he's got to think about it. And well, and that's because we've been dealing with our guy. And I mean, he's a proponent. He's like, he's ready to sign, like he's ready to do it, but he's got to get his partner's approval. And so I'll be following up with Tommy, our contact, next week. And if he comes back and says, yeah, Bob said, let's not do it this year, let's wait till next year. You know, let's talk to Bob. Let's get Bob on the phone, or let's get a meeting with Bob. That's one thing. But the other thing is, so really, you're willing to put yourself and your employees through this process that all of you say you hate. What's going to be different next year?
Yeah.
And so I've already been thinking about what my response is going. if that's an objection that comes back, it could come back next week and go, yeah, we're ready to sign. Because the incentive is March 26th. They get a 10% discount if they sign by March 26th. Plus, we've got to start the work. But one of the things I wanted to say, we were kind of going around and seeing, how you feel you are in that objections part of the conversation, of the process. So Tony Joe, need to get back to you so that you can let us know what your thoughts are.
I think it's been a great conversation, and I've enjoyed hearing the other ladies' thoughts on it. I think some of it is like, saying, let's get the spouse or your other partner on the phone right now. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that, because I almost feel like it's blindsiding them in that, they don't know this call's coming or the whole thing. But I think that's really gutsy, and I think that's great, and I applaud you for being able to do that.
They might not always say yes, because they might have that gut clenching response also. Mm-hmm. But then, like Dawn Schuler, I'm also a coach, and I'll say, well, can we pause for just a minute and talk about your gut response when I ask that? So can you help me understand what would keep you from wanting to put your spouse on the phone right now? Because maybe it's not your spouse. So maybe, we need to talk about this a little bit more to see if this really is a good program for you or a good fit.
Yeah, because the objective or the objection is just using the spouse as the excuse to at least prolong the conversation if the customer or the main person isn't 100% wanting it.
And that's a totally different thing, a totally different objection than I need to talk to my spouse about this first.
I really like that, how let's just pause a moment.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's really a good reframe and, a breaking point there to, I'll use that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then also, for those of us who are coaches and consultants to say, I've said this before, I'll do this. I'll say, I can't help but as a coach, I've got to ask you a coaching question. I feel drawn to ask you a coaching question. Mm-hmm. I sense there's something deeper going on here, and that, X was the easy response, but I'm wondering if there's something else going on. And inviting, but I can get away with that because, like I said, I'm used to asking those questions. But even in the sales process, saying, I can't help but do that because that's my training. That's my, I'm intuitively sensing that whatever, and that can be.
You really have a solution for a problem that they're feeling. I ask all the time, how many of you believe you have a product or service that brings value to the marketplace? All hands go up. How many of you like to sell? Many hands go down. How many of you believe you have a product or service that brings value to the marketplace? Hands go back up. And if you believe that and you don't offer your product or service, then you're leaving that person in a state of pain or agitation. I said, how fair is that? And, oh, it's not. I said, so it's really a perspective shift. Yeah. If you have a solution for their problem and you don't offer it, that's not operating in a platform of integrity and authenticity. Mm-hmm. If you have a solution and they don't want your solution, that's a different discussion.
Right. And getting to that clear place, because, we've all heard it, I need to think about it, or, I need some more time, or, I'll let you know next week, or whatever it might be. And
I use my sense of humor too. When someone says I need to think about it, I'm like, well, can we think about it together for a minute? And then they laugh. And then I'm like, why don't you just tell me what your questions are?
Yeah, I like that.
I like that. Can we think about it together?
And what do people, how do they respond to that? Do they?
They laugh. They laugh because if they're going to do business with me, then they're going to do business with me, Dawn. And I'll tell them, look, this is how I am. I'm very professional and I'm very knowledgeable, but I also like to enjoy our relationship together. I said, and if you want to think about it, I can probably answer most any of your questions. And then they are like, yeah, you probably can. And I'll say things like, do you believe I really know my product or service? Do you think I really know what I'm talking about? And they usually, well, yeah. I said, you're right. I wouldn't, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So I want you to be comfortable asking me whatever questions you have. I said, I ask a gazillion and 10 questions before I buy something. I want to offer you that same courtesy. Don't feel like you're wasting my time. If this is your problem and I think I have a solution for it, don't you think you should have the opportunity to ask all the questions you have? Then they usually go, well, oh, thank you.
And then there's also do you have enough information to make a decision? I mean, that's part of asking for the sale, but it could also be a way to respond, especially if they say, well, I need more information. And then so you say, well, what more information do you need? And they ask some questions. And, well, do you have enough information to make a decision? And
that's good. That's a good soft close.
Yeah. And especially for the Ks, for the knowledges. And and you have enough information to make a decision. So there's so much we could talk about all this, and I'm going to start winding down a little bit. The one thing I did want to say, and it's piggybacking off of what Dawn Moore said, is that whole, do you believe that the product or the service that you offer brings value to the marketplace, and do you like sales? And then if there's a disconnect and you're doing the world a disservice, it's because there's that fear place. It's like there's a disconnect. I call it bridging the gap, the sales gap, but there's an internal gap, which is that bridging the gap between you and your confidence, and you really believe you have a mission to offer this product or service. And then the outer gap, which is connecting with that other person. And of course, I'm going to offer an opportunity to bridge that outer gap in just a moment. And so it's that fear, and then we lose our power. And so I think the moment that we just, in a way, acquiesce to the objection, oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. I've been there. And it shuts it down.
It does.
And so what do we need to do to continue to forward the action until there is that whole, I'm going to call you at 10:30 next Thursday, or we've put it in our budget for second quarter and we're scheduling you to come in and present the invoice and pick up the check. Or, now that I think about it, I know I'm actually not ready for this. Just, tell me the truth. Be truthful with you, be truthful with me. But, I'm not going to force anybody. I mean, I don't think any of us here would want to do any of that, would want to force anybody to know you must buy this, even if we believe it's in their best interest. If they're really not willing to make that step, that change, we can't help them. So any other thoughts or comments before I move on a little bit?
No, I think it's good. It's a lot of good reminders for me, so I appreciate it. Good info.
And I would never call myself an expert at overcoming objections. I mean, even Dawn talking about let's get your spouse on the phone right now. And my little, went, oh. And so, I definitely.
But the purpose of that was to see their response, because if they said, oh, okay, then to me that would be like, oh, they really are dead serious about wanting this now. And then before we got the spouse on, it would be well, tell me a little bit about him. What's his money story? Is that, because that's usually the hang up when you got to talk to the spouse, usually more money than time. And then you handle that and you get them on the phone. You open-ended questions, you get the code, so you know how you're going to go down the money lane. But if they get that gut and throat response, it's like, okay, let's pause here for a second, because this isn't about what I'm offering you anymore. This is something else. Can we,
About a
can we talk
deeper
about
issue.
that for just a minute?
Right.
Because people fear loss more than they fear gain. And when you take it away from them, that you're now not going to give them this offer anymore, they want it so much more. I'm like, okay, your response is telling me that this really might not be a good fit for you right now, and that's perfectly fine. But the purpose of this call was to see if we can do business together, and it sounds like you're not ready yet for this kind of program, just by your response. And then you wait, and if they go, oh, no, 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 then you know they want it, and you can move forward, but now you've created that sense of urgency. And if they breathe a big sigh of relief, then you were selling them, they were not buying. That would be my take on it. So just Dawn and Tony Joe's response to that, it tells me like, oh, okay, there's some probing that needs to go on.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I recognize in myself too, and go, yeah, there's some places there where I need to, to work on. I mean, I feel like I've come a long way from, the girl, the old Dawn, and there's always room to grow. So this is definitely helpful. And, it's been a great conversation, because we've gotten to really kind of delve into these different things. We've heard about, all sorts of different objections. We've shared some of our best practices, and I want to go deeper and offer the next way for you to really be more powerful in overcoming your objections. And so I'm offering a deeper training next Tuesday on overcoming objections, where we're going to cover as many of the objections as we can, although Dawn's PDF there might be quite, whatever the word, comprehensive. And there's responses, and there's great standard responses, instead of just, oh, okay. Or I'll follow up with you when it's convenient, but really stand in your power, strong responses. And then we're going to take it a step deeper and really talk about crafting those responses and tweaking those responses based on who the person is in front of you. So it's not just anytime somebody says X, you plug in the response Y. It's, well, who is that person? And if I know who they are, then I can tweak and customize the why, that answer, so that it really is helping them move forward. So I want to share with you how you can do that. And so what this is, this training that we're offering, and we're actually offering for our bank customers. So it's everybody in our tribe and in our team that is a bank customer or an affiliate or their customers. They get this training for free. So you might be saying, okay, well, what is bank? I have not even ever heard of it. And it is for blueprint, action, nurturing knowledge. And if you're not familiar with that, then I invite you to go crack your code. And you can see up on the side on the screen a link, a button to go crack your code, where you will get your custom code, and you'll get an email with a link to your custom report, where you get to read all about you, which is fascinating, because we always like that inside information, that insight into who we are. The beauty of the bank system is that it tells you, it is designed to actually tell you about the other person, that prospect, that person in the sales call, because it was designed for sales, although we found that it is impactful in all parts of our business and our lives. So if you haven't cracked your code, you don't know your code, I invite you to go do that. It's mybankcode.com/Schuler for those of you watching the recording. And if you're intrigued and you're thinking, well, I want to know more about bank, and I want to use bank, I want to find out what somebody's and how to talk to them in their language. And boy, that overcoming objections training on Tuesday sounds really good. Then all that you need to do is go sign up for Bank Pass All Access. And you'll see up on the side of your screen, you may need to scroll down to see it, is that for $129 a month, you get your own Bank Pass link. So you get a link of your own that you send out to all your customers, all your clients, all your prospects, all your family, everybody you know, find out their code. You also get the training on what to do with it once you've got their code. What is that language? How do you speak to them? And then the third thing is you get access to our training on Tuesday. $129 a month. There's no contract. There's no long-term commitment. If after 30 days or before the 30 days you say, nah, I'm done, great. I don't think you will, because I think you're going to find that once you have the ability and power to crack people's codes and the training on what to do with it and the extra training and support we provide, I think you'll be hooked. We've brought it into our business and our lives. We've been hooked since minute one. My husband, Mark, likes to talk about how within 5 minutes, he saw the power of it and said, this would have really helped me as a therapist, because I could have probably saved 3 sessions by understanding who I had in the room, dynamics between the spouses or the relationships or the family members, just invaluable. So I really invite you to go sign up for Bank Pass All Access. We actually have a special customer support training call tomorrow. So not only do you get the overcoming objections on Tuesday, you get our customer support training call tomorrow. You get to be welcomed in our fold. Let us serve you and help you close more sales, have more impactful relationships, improve your understanding and communication with others. So I look forward to sharing this system and this information with you on Tuesday. And if you have any last moments of questions, feel free to reach out.
I just have one question. You said over to the right. Where do I click on that? Do you have the link and I'm supposed to see it?
So do you see a little red box with 3 little dots?
Mm-hmm.
Click it.
Yeah.
And it should have opened up.
It did.
And do you see where it says get your own Bank Pass and access to training 24/7?
No.
All it does is move the screen back and forth. It gets rid of the chat.
Am I supposed to look at offers?
Yes. Okay. So it just doesn't automatically pop it up on your.
Oh, so click on offers. It looks like a little megaphone, and then I see it.
I see.
Oh, now I see it under offers.
Oh, okay. So then if I click that, it'll take me. Oh, there we go.
Oh, very cool. So if I understand you correctly, then at your training for people who are all access subscribers, you're going to help them overcome objections in each person's code so that they know how to speak to them better, so that you can overcome the objections in their code instead of yours?
Exactly. So for example, if, let's take that standard objection, it's too expensive. And how you would respond to that is going to differ whether they're a blueprint, they're an action, they're a nurturing, they're a knowledge. And of course, hopefully in that sales conversation, you've got some information to be able to mirror some of that back to them. If they're a high nurturer and money is an issue, well, is it because they're afraid that's going to cause conflict with their spouse? Or is it a budgetary item and it's going to take money away from something else that's going to make them feel guilty, whatever it might be? And so knowing their code and hopefully having had, the sales conversation where you've listened more than you've talked, you've got that information to then be able to customize your response to that objection according to their code.
Wow, that sounds really good.
And if you're there live, then based on your industry or your service or your product, I can help you tweak it according to that. So, yes, there's some generic, here's how you would answer that money objection, according to a blueprint, an action, and nurturing, and a knowledge. But then let's bring in the language of what your service is, what your product is, and let's make it even more powerful. So it's a live virtual training. Customers get access to that recording, and there's a benefit of showing up live to be able to get that deeper nugget of support.
Dawn, I was just looking at that other page and it comes up a different price. Am I supposed to use some code or something?
Yes, thank you. So put in Schuler, which is our code, SHULER, and that drops the price. It drops the activation fee.
Oh, now I see it. Yep, it dropped it to $129. Thanks. Cool.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's really cool.
So the bank pass, the all access pass, that's a pass to deeper training, more training on just the bank system?
So yeah, so you get essentially 3 things for your $129 a month. You get your own bank pass link that you can send out and have as many people crack their codes as wanted. You get access to the virtual bank training, which tells you how to use it. And then you get access to our support, which we have 2 customer support calls a month, plus additional supplemental trainings like overcoming objections. So the one of our core values is extreme service. And so our goal is to serve you and really help you have the most power and impact in whatever your industry is.
That's really cool, being able to overcome objections in the other person's personality code. That's gold right there, Dawn.
It is. Oh, and then something else to say about especially the money objection is we have to watch out if we have our own money story coming up in how we respond, or even how we might sell. Is, say you've got a $10,000 coaching package and you're like, wait, I don't know. I'm feeling a little nervous about offering that. And is it because that's your money story talking? Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to make financial decisions for your prospect. Mm. And so by kind of going, oh, well, I didn't offer you that larger package because I didn't think, you'd be interested, or that you could, that it was within your budget. I've actually heard people get offended and say, you don't, the implication is you don't know what my financial situation is, and how dare you assume. But if we're assuming, it's usually because we got our own stuff going on.
That's a really good point. I know I've done that.
Yeah, so it's always going back to that whole, I'm not selling to me, I'm selling to you. And if I know who you are and can connect with you and speak your language, because it's really about you. But I think too often, salespeople, business owners, independent professionals, it's all about them. And this system really helps you step out of that and see who the other person is and talk to them in that language.
That's great.
It's been a good call. Thank you, everyone, for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you all for participating. And for those of you who are on the chat and those of you who are watching the replay, thanks for being here. And again, look forward to helping you overcome objections in a more full, deep way on Tuesday, and really welcoming you into the fold. So have a great evening, everybody, and I look forward to connecting very soon.
Thanks, Dawn.
Hold on, Dawn.
Take care, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.